All right, let's get right into it. We're not just talking about being tired here. We're going to talk about a kind of exhaustion that goes way deeper, the kind that a full night's sleep just doesn't seem to fix. This is all about the seriously high cost of not getting real rest. You know that feeling, right? The alarm goes off, and yeah, you physically get out of bed, but it feels like your brain, your energy, your very soul is still back on the pillow. That deep, just bone-deep exhaustion, that's a signal of something a lot more serious than just losing a few hours of sleep. And this is what we're dealing with, a true lack of rest. It's not just a surface-level problem, it's systemic. It works silently, in the background. Think about it like a slow leak in a tire. You don't notice it at first, but day by day, it's quietly weakening the entire structure, getting you closer and closer to a blowout. So this is probably the most important thing to get straight. We have to completely change how we think about rest. It is not some luxury you get to enjoy if you finish all your work. It's not a reward. It's a fundamental biological need for your survival. It is literally your lifeline. So what happens when we ignore that lifeline? Well, the body doesn't just crash all at once. It's more of a slow, quiet collapse that happens in stages. Let's walk through what that looks like. The very first sign is almost always emotional. You find yourself getting irritated over the tiniest things. Someone asks you a simple question and it feels like a personal attack. You're impatient, you snap at people you love, you just feel completely overwhelmed. That's not a character flaw. That's your emotional battery flashing 0. And then, after it messes with your mood, it comes for your mind. You just can't focus. You walk into a room and completely forget why you're there. You live in this constant state of brain fog that makes even the easiest tasks feel like you're trying to solve a complex puzzle. It's like your foot is on the gas, but your mind is just spinning its wheels in the mud. And finally, your body just starts screaming for help. It sends out these physical distress signals. We're talking about those persistent headaches that won't go away, random aches and pains, that constant knot of tension in your shoulders, maybe even a racing heart when you're just sitting still. This isn't just stress anymore. This is your body physically begging you to stop. But here's the really scary part. What's happening underneath the surface? When you're constantly running on empty, your stress hormones, like cortisol, are just flooding your system 24/7. And over time, that causes real physical damage. It leads to all these serious long-term problems. Your body's own defense systems just start to break down. And, the damage doesn't just stay inside your own body. When you're totally drained, you have nothing left to give to the people you love. You might find yourself arguing more, or maybe you just withdraw completely. Your creativity just dries up. And that passion you had for your work, for your hobbies, it starts to fade. You can even lose your sense of purpose. So what happens if you just ignore all these signs? If you just keep telling yourself, I'll just push through? Well, your body has one final, very drastic way to make you listen. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? It's the absolute truth. You can choose to ignore your need for rest for a while, but you can't ignore it forever, because eventually your body will take the choice away from you. It will decide for you. And let's be clear, these breakdowns aren't random. They don't just happen out of the blue. They are the completely predictable end result of pushing way too hard for way too long. Your body literally forces a shutdown. It might show up as a serious illness that puts you on your back for weeks, or a total mental and emotional burnout where you just can't function, or even a complete physical collapse. Okay, so that was the heavy part. That was the warning. But the good news is it's not a foregone conclusion. We can absolutely prevent that collapse. But we have to understand what real rest actually is. And spoiler alert, it is so much more than just sleeping. To really recharge, we actually need 5 different kinds of rest. First, there's physical rest. That could be passive, like a nap, or active, like gentle stretching. Then you need mental rest, which means quieting your racing mind. Maybe you just take a 10-minute break and stare out a window. There's emotional rest, which is the freedom to stop performing and just be honest about your feelings, maybe with a close friend. You also need social rest, taking a break from the people who drain you and spending time with those who lift you up. And finally, there's spiritual rest, connecting with something bigger than yourself, whether that's in nature, in meditation, whatever works for you. So the real question is, which one of these are you starving for? So to actually avoid that breakdown, it's going to take a huge shift in our thinking. We need a whole new mindset when it comes to taking a break. So let's really hammer these home. First, and this is so important, your body is not a machine. It's a living thing that needs care. Second, you have to start seeing rest as a responsibility, just as important as eating. Third, you've heard it before, but it's true. You just can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give what you don't have. And finally, you have to understand that rest isn't the opposite of growth, it's a necessary part of growth. It's when the real healing and strengthening happens. And this really shows the battle that's going on in our culture, and probably in our own heads. On the right, you've got the lies we're all told, that rest is for the lazy, that it's a sign of weakness, that it's something you have to earn. But the truth is over there on the left. Rest is wisdom, it's renewal, it's a non-negotiable responsibility, and it is, without a doubt, a source of incredible strength. So I want to leave you with this one question to just sit with for a minute. If your body was a separate person that you loved more than anything, your child, your best friend, would you treat it this way? Would you ignore it when it told you it was hurting? Would you push it to the breaking point day after day? Would you treat someone you love the way you're treating yourself? For more real, honest content that uplifts and empowers. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear the truth. Drop a comment below. We're building something better here. We're building lives.